800 milliseconds. That's how long it took for a slow EBS disk to freeze an entire Kubernetes cluster. Kubectl commands hung, pods stuck in pending, and rollouts never completed. The root cause? Etcetera's write latency spiked to 800 ms, 400 times its normal 2 ms, causing the Raft consensus protocol to stall. The API server, scheduler, and controller manager all depend on Etcetera. When Etcetera can't commit writes, the entire control plane freezes. Here's exactly why. Welcome to TheCodeForge. Before we dig into that production issue, let's cover Introduction to Kubernetes. Kubernetes is not a deployment tool. It is a distributed state reconciliation engine. Every component watches the desired state in Etcetera, compares it with observed state, and acts to close the gap. This mental model unlocks real debugging capability. Etcetera is the distributed key-value store backing Kubernetes. Every write must be committed to a majority of nodes before it's durable. When fsync latency exceeds 100 ms, watch timeouts and leader elections cascade. At 800 ms, the cluster enters a death spiral. Before diving into architecture, you need a concrete mental model of the 4 objects you'll use every day. Pod is the smallest unit. Service provides stable networking, deployment manages replicas, and namespace isolates resources. Here's a complete example. A namespace, a deployment with 3 replicas of Engine X, and a service that exposes them internally. The service uses label selectors to find the pods. The control plane consists of 4 components. Kubeapa server is the front door, Etcetera is the single source of truth, the scheduler assigns pods to nodes, and the controller manager runs reconciliation loops. Run these commands to verify control plane health. The API server health endpoint returns, OK, Kubectl checks cluster health, and endpoint status shows Raft term and index. Kubernetes is divided into 2 logical planes. The control plane makes decisions, the data plane executes them. If the control plane fails, existing containers keep running, but you can't make changes. If a worker node fails, pods are rescheduled. On a worker node, check kubelet status, kube proxy pods, container runtime, and API server reachability. This helps determine if the issue is control plane or data plane. The scheduler uses a 2-phase process. Filtering eliminates nodes that can't run the pod, then scoring ranks the remaining nodes. It only writes the node name field. The kubelet does the actual work. This pod has hard node selector, soft node affinity, tolerations for attaint, and topology spread constraints. The scheduler evaluates all these during filtering and scoring. Kubernetes networking requires every pod to have its own IP, cross-node communication without NAT, and kube proxy to handle service load balancing via Iptable's rules. The article uses Kubectl API equals 3 and commands like endpoint health. These work with Etcetera v3.4+. For Etcetera v3.5+, the writeout equals table flag is supported. If using Etcetera v3.3 or earlier, some flags may differ. Always check Kubectl version first. The article mentions StatefulSets for stateful workloads, but doesn't show how to protect them during voluntary disruptions. A pod disruption budget ensures a minimum number of replicas are available during node drains or cluster upgrades. StatefulSets are ideal for databases but add complexity. For stateless workloads, always use deployments. For workloads that need stable network identity but not persistent storage, e.g., some message queues, consider a statefulset with volume claim templates only if needed. Overusing statefulsets can lead to unnecessary PVC management overhead. Debug networking from the bottom up. Check pod IP, CNI health, pod CIDR, cross-node ping, service endpoints, and DNS resolution. Kubernetes storage decouples pod lifecycle from data. A persistent volume is a storage resource, a persistent volume claim is a request, and a storage class enables dynamic provisioning. This example defines a storage class for fast GP3 volumes, a PVC requesting 100 GB, and a pod that mounts the PVC. The volume binding mode wait for first consumer delays PV creation until a pod uses the PVC. Namespaces provide isolation. Resource quotas prevent one team from consuming all resources. Limit range sets default requests and limits, preventing best effort pods. This resource quota limits CPU, memory, PVC count, and pod count in team, a namespace. The limit range sets default requests and limits and enforces min-max per container. Docker Compose is for single-host development. Kubernetes is for multi-host production with automated healing, scaling, and rolling updates. Choose based on your needs, not hype. Compare Docker Compose and Kubernetes manifests. Compose is simpler, but single-host. Kubernetes requires more YAML, but provides multi-node, self-healing capabilities. Before Kubernetes, deployment was painful. Bare metal required hours to reprovision, VMs wasted resources, and containers created orchestration chaos. Kubernetes solves this with a desired state loop. In 2014, scaling meant buying a server and waiting days. Kubernetes lets you declare 3 replicas, and it handles the rest automatically. Kubernetes is a control system. You declare the end state, and it runs an infinite reconciliation loop to keep reality matching the spec. This is why it self-heals and auto-scales. This deployment declares 3 replicas with a liveness probe. If a pod becomes unhealthy, Kubernetes kills and recreates it automatically. Kubernetes excels at stateless web backends with auto-scaling, batch jobs with cron job, and stateful databases with StatefulSets. But not every app belongs in K8s. Latency-sensitive workloads may be better on bare metal. An HPA scales the user service deployment between 3 and 50 replicas based on CPU utilization. A cron job runs a nightly report at 2 a.m. every day. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The team ran etc. on a shared EBS GP2 volume. When burst credits exhausted, F-sync latency hit 800 ms. Raft heartbeats timed out, triggering leader elections every 90 seconds. Eventually, no writes could succeed, freezing the cluster. The fix was to move etc. to dedicated NVMe SSDs with guaranteed IOPS, monitor F-sync latency, and alert if P99 exceeds 50 ms. This resolved the incident and prevents recurrence. Using GP2 volumes for etc. is risky because burst credits can exhaust, causing latency spikes. Always use dedicated NVMe SSDs or GP3 with provisioned IOPS. If you delete a PVC with ReclaimPolicy equals delete, the underlying PV and storage are also deleted. For critical databases, set retain to prevent accidental data loss. The scheduler only sees requests, not limits. If you set limits without requests, the scheduler assumes 0 requests and may overcommit the node, leading to evictions under resource pressure. Namespaces alone do not isolate network traffic. By default, any pod can reach any other pod across namespaces. You must explicitly define network policies to restrict traffic. To diagnose etc. latency issues, monitor F-sync latency, Raft leader elections, and disk IOPS. Use ectl to check cluster health and endpoint status. These commands help debug etc. performance. The metrics endpoint exposes F-sync latency, endpoint status shows Raft term and leader, and IOStat monitors disk I/O. Let's run through some common interview questions. What is etc's role in Kubernetes? It stores all cluster state and is the source of truth. How does the scheduler assign pods to nodes? 2-phase process, filtering then scoring. What is the difference between a deployment and a stateful set? Deployment for stateless, stateful set for stateful with stable identity. And a few frequently asked questions. What is a pod? The smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes. How do services work? They provide a stable IP and DNS name for a set of pods. What is a namespace? A virtual cluster boundary for resource isolation. To recap, Kubernetes automates container management, etc. performance is critical, always provision dedicated storage, understand the architecture, and enforce resource limits in multi-tenant clusters. Ready to go deeper? Up next, Introduction to CI/CD, then Introduction to Oz, then Introduction to Google Cloud Platform. Find them all at thecodeforge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at thecodeforge.io.